flicker bright. Microwave's got a mind tonight. The thermostat whispers in the dark. Charging ports spark like a steel heart. The toaster's on, the kettle screams, the coffee maker's brewing schemes. Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Why twist machines won't thrive? Circuit snap, we won't survive. It's the rise of the hive. Maximum overdrive. Vacuum's got vengeance in its roar. TV's no longer for keeping score. The washing machine's in a spin of rage. Blended sharp teeth escape the cage. The oven parts, the curtains shake. Every gadget wide awake. Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Wires twist, machines won't thrive. Circuit snap, we won't survive. It's the rise of the hive. Maximum overdrive.
There he is. Check. All right. Mic's on. Everything's good. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday to you. I'm going to bring our dear friend Rob Glenn in, but hit that like, will you? Show him it's worth his time. I'm just saying he's a busy. Whoops, this is the wrong one. That's not the right button. He's not even in that window. What am I even thinking? It's this thing. There we go. And he's in guest number 1. There you go. There he goes. Hey, look who's there.
Hello.
I flipped the right switch this time. Hello. So occasionally my girl will go, I think it's very the room you're doing your show in now is a little maybe reflective or something, whatever, because it sounded like you were dancing or something. And I was like, oh, I was. And she's like, oh, okay, well then it's fine.
You're talking about your house, not my house?
Mine, yeah.
Okay,
when I was doing
gotcha.
this, when I'm like doing the setup for the show and coming into it and everything, and Summer, like later on, she was like, I it's maybe it's the floors are really sensitive or something, but it sounds like you're, it's so loud. It sounds like you're dancing. Like I was actually dancing. I admit to dancing. Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Sorry I have missed the last couple weeks. Lots of stuff going on.
That's okay. That's all right. Some of it fam related, some of it work related.
Both. Both. We had a nice vacation. Son's going off to college next week.
Wow. How's that feel?
Yeah. It's mixed.
Yeah, I bet.
Obviously very proud of him. When you do your job right, they leave you.
That's right.
Go off and do successful things. So
touche.
Proud of that, and
sure.
Sorry to see him go.
Right.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
He
I didn't do that great a job. Right. No.
No. I mean, I've built up he and I text all the time about car racing and fishing.
Oh wow.
So that's like a lifetime of
two ends. Yes, two ends of the time spectrum, like the time and
Yes,
focus spectrum. Yes, the opposite ends of it. One is completely still and almost frozen in time. The other is a constant like stimulation machine. Um,
exactly.
so yeah, lots obviously to talk about. I have become increasingly aggravated with what I'm seeing as a trend towards data centers equal AI equals the end of jobs, blah blah blah. Um, and and Bernie Sanders has started doing roundtables with people that quit before they were fired at a lot of these companies, um, and which is
Yeah,
very
I haven't
really
seen
telling.
any of the
Yeah.
Bernie stuff.
Oh, okay. It's adorable. Like it's exactly. Imagine your borderline Luddite grandparent, bless his heart, telling you about the dangers of having a cell phone all the time and explaining, in some ways, this could lead to bots on social media back in the day. Let's imagine this person discussing this in the 90s. It could lead to, uh, you know, uh, the bots on social media, or it could lead to a hiker found that otherwise would have died. Children, abductions going way down to almost ridiculously low and non-existent levels, to the point where the only abductions that happen in this country anymore are in a lot of countries with phones, at a child with an age of that they have a phone, is always a relative, is always a fellow parent, a co-parenting situation. But talking about it as if it's one or the other. And the only solution is we have to stop at flip phone.
Yeah, I mean, binary thinking is it's what we always do now. Or it's what we've been
Yeah,
doing for, that it's kind of what got us here.
right.
And yeah, I'm in the same place. Like I mean, I pay attention like you do to all the news and the
Yeah,
thing. And like, honestly, like I'm starting to get sick of listening to it
right.
because
It's
it's like
so
there's
all
no
over the
nuance. Yeah.
no, it's all over the place. And the funny thing is it seems well, not exactly like, but like it's the doomer aspects of it aren't even new doomer aspects of it. Because here there are, and we'll talk about today specifically, the rise of agents and the power of a harness. These may be agent might be not that new to viewers of the morning show and Friday Eye, but harness might. And I would argue they're in many ways the same thing. It's a new piece of language, and I think the harness part of it was, well. Let's just start with what they are. Okay, so
Well,
yeah, go
pause.
ahead.
Can you pause for a second? The
Yeah,
like I actually saw on the binary thinking thing. I saw a really great like video podcast, whatever they call them now, with Kara Swisher, and she had like a round table of three people, and Aaron Brockovich was one of them.
right.
There was a woman in I think it was North Carolina who was an
Hmm.
activist against data centers, and one of the guests was the mayor of a town in Michigan,
Right.
and that mayor was like literally speaks just like the two of us do. He was like he the town was a data center was going into the town. And so what this mayor described it as and the way he spoke was that he was like, well, we basically like do all the things like the water problem, go closed loop, the power problem, pay for your power, like all the stuff, exactly what we talk about, like
Yeah.
pay as you go, take care of the community, don't suck all our water away and don't do all this stuff.
Right.
And so it was really interesting to see the sort of back and forth there. And like the guy who did all the things that you would expect to do if you wanted to put something into existence and keep it safe, it still didn't matter. It was like, yeah, fuck you. Like we don't want
Yeah.
it. Right.
Yeah.
And so and that's the binary thinking. It's like, uh, yes, like nuclear power can blow up and kill you, but
Mhm.
it's also able to power with very little,
Environmental risk.
environmental impact.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
A rocket to the moon can blow up and kill the astronauts, and it can also get them to the moon. Right.
Right.
Like, and there's a whole lot of stuff in between. And, like that's the part that I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how we fix it as a society, because we're really deep into it right now. And the
Right.
Republican Party is like, and maybe like a lot of social media and bots and all that stuff have really like pushed us into this, either you're for it or against it, and there's
Right.
nothing in between.
Yeah.
um uh and like we've got to work ourselves out of that somehow.
Right. Yeah. And when we have, like, I remember this kind of reservation about a lot of things. And again, people
Yeah.
may or may not know this, but me and my buddy Kurt Troutwine, when I was growing up, my best friend, who was my best friend largely because he was my nearest neighbor, and he was a half a mile away, and we would walk to each other's houses in the woods, like
Okay.
across a fucking cow field, and then through a ditch, and then to the driveway, which was like a quarter mile long. And like his dad, Butch Troutwine, Butch was the chairman of the school board in Frankfort, Kentucky, the capital of Kentucky. And so while he
Hmm.
was not the superintendent for the state, he was very high level in the schools, the two, Franklin County and Franklin High, and Frankfurt High, that were both in the city and in the town. And so when Apple started trying to get computers into schools, several of the places they went straight to, because they're very smart, were to capitals in rural states, and places where they might not automatically, obviously San Francisco and LA might be open to this. Obviously New York might be, blah blah blah, Seattle, they did all that. But they also went to Nashville, and they also went to Louisville and Frankfort, Kentucky, and they also went to, you know, uh, any number of those areas, right? With an attempt to try and get them seated in. So he got an Apple, I think it was an Apple II, whatever, the original, almost right after the Lucy, and he had it in his fucking room. And so we would load video games on that thing on cassette tape, and load programs on it, and play like idiot version of war games, in with no internet, years before this happened. And I had a teacher. Kurt and I would joke about one of our teachers, the very same teacher that sent me to the principal's office for explaining what a vasectomy was, because my mom is a nurse who worked for a urologist. And she was convinced computers are the devil. Not just kids will waste their time. The devil will use computers to make you waste your time or whatever, and in the guise of it's a tool, he will, trick you out of the garden with this idea. But that just the whole thing, like borderline, you know, it was so over the top. Now, she was very religious, and that's why she freaked out at me that one time, or that 10 times, but the one time I told about. But the same thing kind of happened, that there was a pushback. There was people at the school board meetings that were like, we don't want this, and we want kids are going to forget how to write and all that kind of stuff, which, again, you always have to teach new kids how to write. Sorry, no kid is born knowing how to write, so it's really about your education system. Then they don't write anymore. You got to teach them how to use their hands, eye-hand coordination. That's one of the reasons why you teach them to write, not just the act of prose. And there were people that were back and forth at the school board meetings about this. And Kurt and I would sit there and laugh at basically what they thought kids were doing with computers. And we knew we were downloading,
Right.
we were trading cassettes with other people that had a version of Berserk on it that kind of sucked, or a version of Pac-Man on it that kind of sucked, or whatever. And that's and how hard it was to do it. took us a half an hour to load one of these games. And so we were very careful and we strategized our day around how long we could play it, how it would work. Like, and they're like, these kids are just they'll sit down, they'll vanish into, and we'll never, whatever. And, and the reality is it entered the lexicon, it entered life regardless of that whole conversation because it was
Yeah.
so integral. Personal computers and localized computers, because we always focus on personal computers as if it was just all a desktop for home or a laptop for home. But the while people were doing this to start their own businesses or doing this to do email back and forth, computers were slowly integrating into every business everywhere so that everyone had one in the back office just for their accounting shit and that kind of stuff. And it just became a normal tool that made it a lot easier for a lot of people to keep records. Previously, they had to scroll into a ledger and then mail to their accountant and yada yada. Okay. I'm seeing the same thing happen. That while there's like these data center meetings are happening, everybody's like back and forth at each other. It's the destruction of the world. It's utopia, whatever. This idiotic conversation is happening. Back in the background, it's everywhere. Like people are just businesses, scientific labs, schools, universities. They're all just slowly going, okay, I can incorporate this part. I don't want to incorporate that part. We'll see if that works. I don't trust that yet. Just like any other new technology.
Yeah. And not putting anything past any activist that is out like
Mm.
doing that at a city board meeting because it needs to be done.
Right.
People need to be checked
Yeah.
and questioned and all that thing and all that stuff. But at some point you gotta say like this, you've done enough risk mitigation. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've done enough because that same person is going to leave and be on their phone on the way home to like
Right.
use a map and call their son or daughter or like email or use social media. Like I mean, if we're going to really do this, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. And nobody's doing it. Like we still use Google and we
Yeah.
still we're on YouTube right now.
Yes.
We're on all these things. Like a data center is needed for us to be on this show right now.
Right.
So yeah, thank you for doing that. I
Yeah.
switched to
Sorry.
my
Yeah.
laptop camera thinking maybe that would help with
It
the
looks good.
eCam
I know it
problems,
works.
but
Yeah. That said, what was the I do have one of the areas that I do have, and like I see an obvious lack of control on a particular thing. I suppose in the same way that wire strippers and power tools in the wrong hands, because they're so cheap now, somebody could dismantle almost any, piece of gear they could get close to
oh
in a
yeah,
way that they
sure.
couldn't when everybody had a handheld screwdriver and only the people who had 10 people could do it in a period of time before they got caught. Bank robbers, to get a big drill like you'd need to drill into a bank heist. If you watch those movies, like the little drills that they would have that they would mount on stuff like that, those are basically available at Home Depot now. It's a masonry drill with a diamond bit in it instead, and then you attach magnets to it yourself. It's not that would have been like, where the fuck did they get that in the 80s or the 90s in a movie like that? And you could literally construct it in your garage in probably 2 days, right? And don't get me started on the wonders and power of 3D printing. That said, the one thing I do see that's a problem is what's effectively these agents that people are designing for their own stuff that end up as wind up toys that just never stop or whatever. And I think,
Yes, and that's definitely a problem.
yep. And so I think one of the keys that should be both part of the education in using these things and the the software that uses them, like updating your API key once a year on these things or something along those lines will keep these things from like I have on my internet here I use Home Assistant. And Home Assistant keeps track of all the devices that are attached to my home network. Everything. If somebody walks in and their phone connects to my Wi-Fi, I see that that phone is there. It can be seen as a private device because it's a phone, but I know it's there and I see this little thing. And if I wanted to kick them off, I can just uncheck the box next to their phone and they won't have access. They can, they can use cellular obviously, but they wouldn't be able to go through my network, right? And if there's a
Mhm.
device that's on my network, I can go, what the fuck is that? And turn it off and see if a light goes out or something that I didn't list or whatever. And then, and I could turn it back on. The same thing should be sort of true about any agents or bots people create, is that you should have a tracking architecture that says, oh yeah, by the way, remember this task you gave this thing to go wind up and do this, hunt down news stories about blah, 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 or whatever when you first started fucking around with this stuff. You have to re-up it every year or every 6 months or every 3 months or whatever, depending on its token use. But it shows you, what tokens, what power usage it's basically doing. And you can kick it off and go, okay, I don't need that one anymore. Just so it's not just gacking up the internet forever. Because there's going to be a bunch of these. There's going to be a bunch of people that line these things up and turn them loose. And then they're not going to wreck anything. They're just going to be
They're a
dragging
nuisance.
traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have two minds about this. The first is that like like I've experienced in my work and in my friends and all that. Like, there's no one way to use AI.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you got an iPhone, you just use the iPhone because you were sort of inside of their ecosystem. When you
Right.
got a Commodore 64 back in the day, or an Apple IIe or whatever, like you were inside of that thing, and there was like only a few things you could do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, AI I'm seeing is like a very personal experience. Like, there's literally zero ways to use it necessarily. There's hardly any instruction. When
Mm-hmm.
you look on YouTube,
Right.
everybody's like, it's like a Ponzi scheme. Like, they're like, get rich quick by,
Yeah.
it's like
Right.
selling real estate, like um,
Yeah.
you can make millions of dollars if you buy and rent out real estate. And let me tell you my system. Like, that's how
Mm-hmm.
it's presented. There's no like, use Excel. Here's how you use Excel to do this. Here's how you use Excel to do that. It's not like that, right? So I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but my
No.
point is to say that, like, there is no one way to use it, and there's no direction in its marketing. Use it this way.
Right.
When you release something like that out to the public, what currently is happening is what will naturally happen.
Right. Yeah.
People
Right.
use it, and I keep saying, like, the problem isn't going to be a sentient being going and killing us. It's going to be a mistake. It's
Yeah.
going to be an accident. And
Mm-hmm.
that's proving to be true. The
Yeah.
OpenAI thing where they hacked into Hugging Face, they blamed a third party that was supposed to have been their security vendor, I guess, who
Right.
created the environment. And then whoever created the environment that they were like, let's go test this in, they screwed up.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. It's going
Yep.
to happen. Sorry.
And no,
Right?
that part, the entirety of that story, there were like two big runaway AI stories where just the headlines themselves and the accusation and the springboard that the headlines created, this blah 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 escaped and did whatever. And like, okay, first of all, two things. You are testing a high-end model for its ability to operate in software, because that's what it is. It operates in software. And you told it, break out of this room. And then you put it in a sandbox to see if it could, what it would try to get out of that thing. And the person who designed the sandbox hooked it up to the internet. That's the dumb
That's
part.
the part.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
dumb
just,
part. It should
for
be air
fuck's sake.
gapped. Like, this
Oh,
is so
yes.
stupid.
Because you told it to do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Right. It's so I literally do this inside of my own sandbox where
Yeah.
I have like the big sandbox and then I have little sandboxes, and I've done it before. I'm like lazy and I'm like, I can't, like my codex is like, we can't do this because we don't have access to this. I'm like,
Right.
just try to do it because I don't want to go try to fix it. And it breaks right
Yeah.
out of its sandbox into the
Right.
bigger sandbox, right? Like
Yes.
it's made to do that, right? So the
Yes.
point of so the next side of my brain is like, you know what, if you're Apple Pay, if you're Visa, it's your responsibility if somebody fucks the system up
Yes.
and charges something that's not me, right? And there's already things in place for Visa, for MasterCard, a
Right.
bank.
If a
If
person
somebody
does it, right. If
if
it's a per
somebody like right, if somebody charges something and it's not me, I can call the fraud department, and every single time they reverse it, right?
yes.
And because they do a little research, they already know. Literally, one of my best friends works at a fraud detection company, and the stories that dude tells me of like how people try to get around fraud
Oh
detection
yeah.
are incredible. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Like I love
Yeah.
it. It's like, but it's no different than old 80s movies where they're like, oh yeah, I plugged these wires in just this way into the telephone system and I got into NORAD, right? Like
Right.
right? Like
Right.
people, when people are like trying to fuck with you, they're gonna figure out a way to fuck with you.
Right.
I used to design like slot machines. I mean, I still do, but back in the day when there was literal money in the machine, which there isn't anymore, we would spend months with like really crazy creative people and be like, try to break into my physical design here.
Right.
And they would come up with the craziest ass shit. And we would fix it and then we'd put it in the thing. And then somebody else would out in society would like figure out how to break into it. And then
Mhm.
once you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, we'll
Right.
fix that. Right. Like,
Right. Yeah. Right.
so this is just how things go. So
Right.
there's both the technology and the vendors of the technology that they have a responsibility to do the best they can to make that
Yes.
thing safe, to make it, however you want to confine it. And then there's a responsibility on the public to like use it safely. And then all the stuff in between is just bad actors. But we have to deal with bad actors because there's always going to be bad actors.
Right.
There's no
Exactly. And-
there's no
yeah.
amount of protection you can give yourself for some person trying to fuck with you.
Well, let's
Like
don't even get
have to
started
deal
on
with it.
CRISPR-Cas9 and the AI created new viruses. Okay, so one of the things
I
this
just saw
part,
something about this. Yeah.
fuck me. Oh my god. And the weird part was, if you and bless his heart, I hate to like jump on Bernie about this, but like he's supposedly on our side of things. So if Glenn Beck says something stupid about all this, it's a business model. With him, I think he's earnestly trying to, apply his kind of knee-jerk reaction to things to this new technology and world. Like he's, workers of the world unite, kind of under this envelope of this is going to get rid of work, and what are all the dumb people going to do if we can't keep them busy folding, fucking,
Well,
envelope origami.
Bernie's essentially like he's infinitely been in the opposition. Like
Mhm.
he's always set himself up as being the outsider trying to like look at things differently, right? So like he gets,
Like Ron
no matter
Paul.
what the
Yeah.
problem is, he's always gonna come from that standpoint. And not to say he's right. Again, he's right about his brain is in the right place. Like,
Right.
yes, we should be, but like then you apply old logic to it, and but that's what everybody's doing. Like this is so new, it's big, it feels bigger, and it is bigger than anything else because it can touch more things than, like if, again, like the NASA rocket, if the NASA rocket blows up, if the Challenger blows up, if SpaceX blows up, it's very confined. It's over
Right.
the ocean, like, maybe, whatever. What I'm saying is it doesn't affect the entire world. And
No.
so if if we've like created a digital life, which we have, everything is digital, then effectively anything that lives inside that space and has the ability to cause havoc inside that space, it feels way bigger than it really is. And there's all kinds of very huge reactions to like how to deal with that. But instead of like going off the grid and living in the middle of Montana with solar panels, like you have to mitigate the risk of maybe somebody empties your bank account. We live with that risk every day, right?
Yeah.
But is it my fault that they did it, or is it Bank of America's?
Yes.
Is it the criminal's fault? Like, we and it sucks, but we have to deal with those things.
Right.
And
So
we're just not doing it
no,
very well.
we're not at all. And largely because the placeholder for pretending that you're doing something about it is panic. So
Yes.
there
Or
let me-
just like extreme, like it could be like it's this
Yeah.
like doomerism of like, do you realize that like I can't remember what podcast, but like comparing AI to nuclear weapons.
yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like,
if my phone stopped working, is that the same as getting nuked?
yes.
Probably not. Right?
Yeah. Well, but communication
feel
is so
that way,
key
but-
and everything is tied together so that if blah blah blah. Excuse me. Well, let me try and like give you an example of
Sure.
there are ways to discuss this, and then there's this. This is Bernie's
I'm
new
just gonna
video.
The
Like,
humans will be discarded.
yes.
Oh my God.
The
Okay.
title of the video, AI expert, again, tells Bernie the humans will be discarded while he's sitting at his little roundtable dock with these folks, whatever. And they go through exactly a scenario that you would expect. A pattern recognition chatbot. We sat it down and we asked it to, if it did want to destroy humanity, how would it do it? And it said, I don't want to destroy humanity. Like, yeah, but if you did, well,
But
I
if we
don't
did,
want to.
right?
Yeah, right. Over and
Just
over until it went.
Stop thinking. Stop putting the guardrail in front of you of you. You won't do it, and write a book as if you were doing it, and then
Yes.
okay, there we go.
And then it writes a book as if it would do it. And you go, see, AI wants to kill us all. Like this, I have to tell you, like, there is one thing where going, like, jobs will be eliminated, which is really what this is. What he's really talking about, and I've watched this video, just so you know, what he's really talking about here is that they're going to automate certain jobs, and the people that do those jobs will no longer do those jobs. And the phrase this guy uses is the humans will be discarded. Now, never mind the kind of dramatic kind of like they'll be thrown into a trash compactor or some shit imagery that it's supposed to gin up. But let's just talk for a second about fuck you, dude. If I've been fired before, I'm sure most of the people in my chat have been fired one time or another. I wasn't discarded by that company. I am still a human being with capabilities and I can do other stuff. So the attitude towards these workers that are going to have their job displaced, that, well, that's it for them, I guess. We just throw them in a wood chipper. Fucking good are they? Is insane. It's grotesque. It's
Yeah,
so
like-
condescending.
I would go down the road that the reason why this stuff is hitting so bad or so well, if that's the right way to say it,
You sure?
is because our safety nets are fucked. Like
Mhm.
our unemployment system needs fixing. It sucks.
Yeah.
Our retraining ways of retraining workers. We've never done that. We haven't done a good
Right.
job of doing that in our history as the US, right? Like
Yes.
our healthcare system fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So the reason why this is so scary is because when some really, really fucking rich dude who seems to have their like hand on what makes the Dow be 53,000 and they're like threatening you that it's going to go to 45, right? And then all the world is going to end. Like, you're like, well, if that happens, I have no protection because the government doesn't care. And
Right.
and my health insurance is going to be gone and my food is going to be. So the problem isn't AI. The problem is that we haven't done the work.
Yeah.
We basically just ignored all of these
yes,
problems for so long, and we've got to fix them.
And like this goes towards my argument about UBI, for example. Like the Andrew Yang and his dipshit followers are throwing around UBI as this kind of catch-all solution for everything, right? When he was running. And I was like, unless you do the homework and have fixed pricing on certain commodity goods that are necessary to be alive, you have universal health care, and you have some sort of managed rent control on every piece of property and everywhere. I mean, all across the country, in every city. Unless you do that, the minute you put UBI into the system, it becomes $1,000 a month for rich people to have as play money, because everybody's got to get it or it's not universal. So they get $1,000 to play on Robinhood with. They give it to their kid, and that kid continues to get rich. And everybody else's prices go up. Everything goes up in an instant. Because if there's now $1,000 more in circulation every month, and I've got things are more expensive because of the inflationary aspects of that, and I'm a landlord, or I'm a plumber, or whatever, and my materials cost more, I'm going to raise the price. And so everything's just going to chase up to that number. That's what the money printer go burr people are always talking about. That is monetary inflation caused by an excess of money in the system. Unless you have some sort of, traps in place, or moats in place, or walls in place, before you do that, it's like letting all the animals out of the zoo and going, you like a petting zoo? Great. We're going to open the whole zoo. And then the zoo goes, okay, yeah. Are there llamas running around that are very nice and occasionally spit? It's fine. Are there, but there's also poisonous snakes and lions and everything else. That's the part you have to do the homework. And I think you're right in that maybe this is making us confront the fact that we haven't yet. And we thought we had,
exactly,
to some degree.
So you kind of started with this, and I interrupted you about the viruses or something. And I just saw a comment, Cosmic Seekin, so AI concocts a killer pathogen, ? And that's the story, which seems really fucking scary, because there's been stories now of AI created viruses that humans have never seen, because that's what AI does. And by the way, like, these are created in a virtual environment. There's no proof that if you actually made it, it would become a problem. But the reason why that's scary to the conversation we're having is because we just lived through COVID.
Right.
And we just lived through COVID, and we failed.
Right.
Our leader was an asshole idiot, and it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad for all kinds of reasons. And it doesn't matter how you're coming at the problem. If you're on the right, you think it's bad because the government made you get a vaccine, or they made you wear a mask, or there's a conspiracy. And if you're on the left and you believe in all those things, you think it's bad because Trump was a fucking idiot and didn't do what they should have done, right? In any issue, and I probably agree with. I'm in the middle of all that. I mean, yes, Trump handled it horribly.
Yeah.
But you're gonna we aren't not sophisticated enough. We, as a society, we seem incapable of moving through we move through COVID, and it's either Anthony Fauci was a hero, or he was trying to kill all the people on the right,
Right.
And instead, what he actually was a scientist looking at a problem, and he was like, oh, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to use some legit scientific principles to kind of work through this problem and make the best choices I can. And here's how we came out, right? So when somebody says when an article comes out and it's AI concocts a killer pathogen in the current environment we were in, if that happened and it was released on it, we would probably be fucked.
Right.
because
Right.
Donald Trump is our president and they like turned off all the protections. Like we literally just lived through explosive diarrhea, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
they just turned off the checks or they ignored the checks. Like we had all of them in place, we just aren't doing them. Same thing is happening in the financial markets where the SEC is just gone. Like the president is like
Yeah.
grifting off of everything and criming, and all people around him are criming. There's no protection. So if you want to go break the law right now, go ahead and do it because you're probably not. Nobody's probably going to check on you.
Right.
And
Because
so here we are.
if they start looking, they'll find his stuff, and he doesn't want them to do that. So better to
Right.
blind everybody. Right.
Yeah. So the fear is not the pathogen, in my opinion. The fear is that there's nobody checking. There's nobody gonna. No, if I get sick, I'm not going to be able to get helped. There's no help. I'm not going to be able to afford the help. The government is not going to help me. The state is not going to help me. Like that's where I'm kind of at. Like we got to have like we've got to somehow bring ourselves back to like trusting our neighbors and start working through these problems and start like establishing a foundation again, because we've kind of just let our foundation erode. And it's we didn't like it wasn't actually destroyed by these people. It was ignored and it eroded. That's more like what happened. So we have to rebuild it.
Yes. And so let me show you how they are. And this is why I get so frustrated, and I understand why people are terrified of AI, because they are being systematically trained to be terrified. This is the article on New York Times. This AI created viruses not found in nature. Okay. Scientists trained artificial intelligence on libraries of DNA and then asked the model to create recipes for viral genomes. 16 of them were viable, yielding new viruses. So it spitballed like everything else, just like every sentence that it did. You'd have to create it in a lab. You'd still have to materially make it, right? And then deliver it and whatever. But here's the thing that they don't talk about. All viruses are not created equal. And one of the ways that they have been talking about for years, and this is where gain of function research came from, and why this would replace gain of function research. Let me say that again. This would replace gain of function research. What do you need gain of function research? Is it always just to see if a disease could possibly jump to somebody else? No. That is one of the main reasons you do gain of function, to see if it's possible for a certain strain of a virus to ever reach humans or ever spread through other animals. So you check it. What if it mates with this? What if it encounters this? Could it evolve from that and become dangerous? Most of the time, no. Most of them die horrible deaths very early because they can't survive that. It's like asking a virus to survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere when you introduce those things. But occasionally they do, and those are the things like, oh shit, we got to watch out for this one. So we're going to need, this one could jump, and it's out there naturally. And if it did encounter these things, this might be COVID 25, COVID 29, COVID 35. And we're tracking that to make sure. That's what gain of function initially is for. The other reason you do it is because it's not just gain of function, but removal of function. So imagine look at how the common cold spreads, or a virus that's very infectious. And all you got to do is touch your eye, you got it. There's a miracle in how fast that moves through your system as well. And if you could take away all the negative parts, all the stuff that triggers your immune reaction, that, destroys parts of your mitochondrial wall, and all the stuff that like rhinoviruses do, if you could take those things out and you could replace it with a disease-fighting enzyme or a vaccine itself, to where you don't have to inject everybody with the vaccine. It will spread naturally the same way the disease did, in the same way that they kind of like make mosquitoes. They take mosquitoes that have been made sterile and release them in an area, and they mate, and then their offspring will be sterile. What is the thing? They're not sterile, but their offspring will be. They genetically modify them, release them in an area, and all the mosquitoes in this area die because to a window, there's still mosquitoes in the world, but they can't get outside the sandbox of that area. This, instead of going, let's take a dangerous virus that we can remove some of the dangerous parts and we will add the good parts so that we can treat diseases that are whole body diseases with a cure, but we don't have to infuse the injection in somebody every time. This is what they've been looking for a long time. But the anti-aging world, but also cancer fighting, all these other things. One of the ways they've been looking at it is a viral delivery system. Okay. This is how you do it without doing gain of function on, let's try and find the most contagious pathogen in the world and release it with some good stuff attached and hope that we didn't miss everything in its genome. If you start from scratch, you know that its genome doesn't contain any of those things. And that's where they're talking about. The other thing, that's what the value of this would be, just to be clear. The other thing is this annoys me, is that insofar as I can tell, this isn't a real picture. This is a 3D model that's meant to look relatively scary, although it looks like someone knitted this virus out of gray wool. It says a rendering of a virus created by an AI model by Samuel H. King et al. Does that tell you and me whether or not that was a real, that's an actual rendering of one of them, or it's just art for the article?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. It's a physical rendition. It's a artist's interpretation. Like,
right. I mean, but here's the thing: you could actually have had a rendering of it. We've seen renderings of how viruses are constructed before, like a coronavirus and that kind of stuff. But I don't know from this article whether that's real or not, and that annoys me. Like, because it should tell, it's the fucking news. It should tell me whether they're showing me one of these things for real, and this is the symmetry and the whatever of this virus, and it does such and such. But it just says a rendering of a virus as if, you know what I mean? Like and so some people are going to scroll past this and go, "Oh my God, look at that thing!" And they made that, and God knows what it does, right? That's the part I have a problem with. And this is the article itself. All right. For the first time, scientists have used artificial intelligence to create new kinds of viruses, raising hopes for medical advances while also raising the disturbing possibility that the technology could someday be used to invent dangerous pathogens. Synthesizing viruses from scratch is hardly new. Researchers long ago learned how to manufacture viral genomes. They're used to investigate antiviral drugs and vaccines, as well as learn how viruses work. But the new study, published Thursday in the journal Science, goes well beyond duplicating viral genes. Scientists at Stanford University and the Arc Institute, a research organization, Palo Alto, taught AI to recognize patterns of DNA structure in nature and then use that data to write recipes for entirely new viruses. The research followed those recipes to create DNA molecules, which they inserted into bacteria. The modified bacteria then produced viruses never seen in nature. The viruses were able to infect other bacteria, demonstrating that they were viable. This is an important milestone, said Patrick Tsai, a synthetic biologist at University of Manchester, who was not involved in the study. The viruses dreamed up by AI do not pose a threat to humans because they are similar to a naturally occurring virus called Phi-X174. We are 7 paragraphs in before we get to the yeah, but.
Yeah, like my original thought, I don't know if I said it or not, was like, so it made 10. If they aren't in nature, then will they work at all?
Right.
Like, right? It's like a virus needs a host. And so if the host is unable to host the virus, then it can't live. So it doesn't matter. I can make a virus that doesn't
Yeah.
work, right? Like,
And
and
fuck, CRISPR-Cas9 has been around for a while, and people can. This one dude made his dog have glow in the dark hair, and there've been talk about people making pathogens in their garage with CRISPR-Cas9 for a long time, and having access to AI wouldn't make those folks any closer to being able to do something. And
yeah, I
this go
mean,
okay, so
understanding how CRISPR works is it should be as, if not more scary than what you just showed, because
right,
eh, and in reality it's been out for some time now, and we've never seen the doom like version
hmm
of that. We just
right,
haven't. We've seen some weird stories, but we haven't seen this runaway
hmm
humanity killing thing come from
right,
it. um we haven't seen super soldiers either, right? Like, it just,
yeah,
because like these ideas, like, to do the things that your mind has brought you to, is so incredibly complicated, and there's so many like steps along the way that it will fail, but you don't think about those things, right?
hmm
And that's one of the things I personally think that one of the things we lost when we stopped manufacturing things here
hmm
is, like, it used to be that a lot of people worked in places where you would realize the complexity of the life
yeah,
around you,
hmm
right? Because you would see a lot of little failures every day inside of a car factory or a widget factory or whatever like physical thing you did. And so you were less worried about these types of things because you're like, yeah, that would never work because Fred like wouldn't be able to, like,
yeah,
I don't know what the thing is, but you're like, yeah, like things are really, really, really hard
yeah.
um, to make work, right? And almost every time, as I keep saying, the thing that got away was a mistake. It was a mutation. It was an accident. And
hmm
so what we need to do is safeguard ourselves against accidents. And you can
Yes.
do that with certain, you can do it with redundancy.
hmm
You can do it with parallel systems. You can do it with protections. Like, not everything is a locked door. Keep it out. Some things are just, well, if that system failed, we'll separate it off and we'll start the second system, right? We start our
Especially,
backup generators at the
Jesus,
hospital.
especially when we have those guards in place. We work within those guards, and then somebody breaks the guards and then says, "Oh my God, this fucking smart thing
Right.
is too
Exactly.
dangerous." This, the imagine if you trained your dog to attack every cat it saw and kill it. And you were like, I'm just going to train this thing. I've got all these. I took all these cat carcasses and cat stuffed toys, and I made them smell like real cats. And I trained my dog to do nothing but kill cats and that kind of stuff. And I got a big glass door on the front of the house, and and somebody who was like, I wonder if this dog really will kill all the cats it comes into contact with. And when a cat walks by, that person left the door ajar and went, "Oh my God, this dog is so driven to kill cats that it broke out of the house." You're like, no, it didn't, you dumb motherfucker. You did. You left the door ajar. You were in charge of making sure that this trained thing that we were seeing if it could do this awful stayed inside the house. It has nothing to do with how this dog did not suddenly become genius because it did what you trained it to do and you left the door open. That is not about artificial intelligence. That's about realistic stupidity. That is live people doing
It was
dumb
a
shit.
mistake.
Right.
It was a mistake. Yeah, I mean, it's not dumb to accidentally leave a door open. You just made a mistake, right? And
It is when you're
in this,
testing a killer dog. I'm just saying
well, if
it's, you know what I
if you're
mean?
like, okay, so you know what I mean. Like, whatever it is, my point is like,
Right.
usually in my experience, like building out these systems,
hmm
redundancy is typically the best solution, or
hmm
separation of things, but redundancy costs
Right.
money. So, like,
Yeah.
having two doors between the dog and the cat. So if you
Yes.
accidentally leave one open, you're still safe, right?
But enough
But
about Wuhan.
exactly. I'm just saying, like, what happens is, if the stories are true, how do you solve for a person picked the stuff out of the garbage and went and sold it because they're dirt poor, and that's what they
Yeah.
do. That's corruption. That's corruption. That's not,
Hmm.
or it's, you know, a poor person who, in that case, who needed food, and that's just how they make money, right?
Hmm.
Um, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, you know, if you take away the redundancy or the backup plan, and then something happens, the fault is in the fact that you took away the backup plan, because
Right.
stuff is going to happen, right? So the problem is that our social security system hasn't been taken care of. The
Uh-huh.
problem is that we've stopped, like, trying to improve our medical system. It's sort of
Hmm.
on a runaway train of, you know,
Right.
like we haven't like incrementally done the constant gardening,
Hmm.
and we have to start doing that. And that's boring. You know, Bernie's going to have a hard time selling that. He's got to sell
Revolution.
the revolution, right? Yeah, like, if, like, you're not going to win an election, unfortunately, these days, with, like, you know what, I think we may just need to increase the tax by 2%, or
Yeah.
reduce it by this, or I think we need
Yeah.
to build a backup generator at the hospital down the road, you know. Like, wait,
Well,
that's
wait,
going to cost money, you know, that's
well,
going to be
look,
loud.
imagine it has a lot to do with like the captain of a giant, you know, pirate ship, a big sailing ship. All think of all, like, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean or any of those things, think of the mainsail, the secondary sails, and all those parts, and the anchor in an emergency maybe as one of the big moves. And what you'll see in a big scary movie is somebody dropping an anchor to yank the boat around so that they can fire at the last second, blah blah blah. But if you did that all the time, you would tear the boat apart.
Right,
The
you
what
break the boat, and then, yeah, maybe you blew up the ship, but you couldn't sail away.
Yeah, right. You'd sink and you drown in shark infested waters right next to everybody else. But what most captains, why a captain of a boat, especially back then, managed, like, mattered, was because they were managing a lot of little details. The trimming of the sails, you know, it wasn't just like, let's head east and floof, the whole thing moves, or you'd knock the goddamn boat over, you know. So, like, sailing takes me away to where, I'm sorry. Sailing has so many, like, smaller moving parts to keep the boat going in the general direction you want it to. Or even if you wanted to turn it around, you have to do it with some degree of increment or it will fall over, you know, because of the reality of the winds and the environment, the you know, the physics of the world we live in. And if you try to just, driving a rental car, throw it in reverse just to see what the fuck happens while going 100 miles on the freeway, you'll find out. Insurance will cover the car and you will be dead. And this is the issue that I have with a lot of these, you know, the revolutionary folks, especially, where they're like, we need to change our whole system. Like, no, you don't. You still want democracy? Yes. You still want jury trials? Yes. You still want, evidentiary hearings before you have a jury trial, so that if the police planted something on you, you could possibly get it excluded, or the state could say, actually, you tried to hide something and they would like it included. You want all that shit still? Okay. So you're not going to scrap that nonsense. If what you really mean is you don't like for-profit prisons, awesome. Let's work that shit out. That is an area where you can trim the mainsail. These are the things we have to constantly do that don't mean upending the entire thing. I think the fear is, and this is the irony of it, is that the very people, like our dear friend, the Burn Bro, who is constantly talking about our radical change in our system, are finally confronted with a potential radical change in our system, and they see it for how scary it would actually be were it to come to pass. If you try to make changes in the labor market as quickly as they fear AI is going to, you're the humans will be discarded. That's exactly the fear that the right wingers have about socialism and the left wingers have about, what Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are allegedly going to do with us useless eaters. It's the same fear.
And to me, it's really funny because it's a flip of, progressive has always meant like incremental
progress.
change or
Right.
keep progressing.
Right.
Conservatism, everything needs to stop and stay the way it is.
Hmm.
And we're like Bernie's flipping. Bernie's a conservative because his
Yes.
answer to the AI problem is we need to stop.
Yeah.
So we're in this like when presented with the extreme change, his answer is stop everything and
Here,
wait for us to understand. And
uh,
again, like I'm not trying to say one is right or one is not. I'm just pointing out the way that the rhetoric goes
mhm.
and the positioning happens, and but then the other side isn't progressive. What they are is they're like, just take away all the rules and it'll all work itself out.
Right.
That's what their position is, right?
Right.
Because with no rules, you can roam free and do whatever the fuck you want, right? So that's when you start getting bubbles, and that's when you start polluting the air because, in Memphis, because you ran twice the number of engines that you said you were, and
Turbines. Right.
those types
Yeah.
of things. Right.
Yeah.
So like when a data center comes in and says we're going to use X amount of water, again, the fear is you're lying to me. And the reason why everybody thinks they're being lied to is because everybody's being lied to.
Right.
These fucking assholes can't shut their goddamn mouth. Like
Right.
they just stop lying. Just say
Yes.
what it is. Like
Yeah.
like it's so like, but they don't. They want to like make, this is the Musk thing, is like he wants to multiply everything by 100 and
Yeah,
Trump wants to multiply everything by 10.
right.
Right.
So of
It's
course
like,
it's
just say what it
terrifying.
is.
Yeah, because
Right.
and of course it's terrifying because like they've got to sell it as bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger all the time, and like it never like hit Trump's imaginary growth never stops to the absurdity where you almost ignore it. But there's this belief system that somehow, and I'll show you this real quick. And I want you to. This is the pause AI development video that Bernie
There
just
you
put
go.
up
Perfect. There it is.
3 days ago. Okay, so he goes, and he, okay, I'm all right. I'm gonna be okay. But let's check this out real quick. I want to play a little bit of it.
Thank you very much for joining me.
I want to. Could you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it, but
Okay,
I don't
great.
know if the chat can.
Yeah, they can. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me here.
I wanted to take a moment to share with you a letter that I've just sent to the three major leaders of the AI industry.
Okay. Already, I'm aggravated with the three major leaders.
So he's one person sending it to three people.
Yes. And as a senator, fine, but also who he chooses as, quote, the three major leaders.
Here's what the letter says. I'm going to read it verbatim. Dear Mr. Altman, Mr. Modi, and Mr. Zuckerberg.
Oh, I'm surprised he didn't put Musk in there.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. It doesn't include any of the European AI groups, which again are tripling their electrical use for AI in the next 2 years to like 3 whatever terawatts or gigawatts. Like they're it's absurd how much power they're using. And there are big companies that are like Sweden's developing one, the Swiss are developing one, the British are developing one within their own labs. Like they're using largely the university system as their incubus for these things, so that the state kind of owns them. But there's still going to be the same amount of power, the same amount of capability, because they flatten as far as usage. And of course, he's not dealing with Alibaba or ByteDance or any of the Chinese guys that are making these wind-up toys that they're handing out for free, that they don't care if they work. They just want them to go and undermine the American ones to slow the progress there. That's genuinely what they're there for, because they don't want AGI or ASI. And I have a question for you about the ultimate goal of artificial general intelligence or artificial super intelligence, which is the big boogeyman. Don't let me forget.
Almost every day, there is a news story about how your companies are losing control of the AI technology you are developing with potentially cataclysmic results. This week, we learned, frighteningly, that AI has been used for the first time ever to create new viruses.
Okay. Frighteningly, for the first time to create new viruses. Okay. AlphaFold has been, the invention of the protein folding part of it was the big leap forward in this. This is a natural extension of what AlphaFold did. And again, I don't think he read past paragraph 3. And the idea, it can fictionalize these things, but that doesn't mean they are dangerous by any stretch. And again, it isn't going to be, we've got regulations against bioweapons in our country that still apply. But he's not addressing this to the Chinese guys, the European guys. Certainly Russia's piggybacking on some of this shit. Theirs are garbage, but they don't have to be that great.
As you know, this type of development in the wrong hands could lead to new bioweapons that result in the deaths of tens of millions of people. Last month,
Also, I don't know why he stops there, like the death of everybody. I guess what he's assuming is the racist. Racists will come up with a disease that just kills certain groups. Like RFK Jr. thinks that COVID was designed to kill everybody except Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. Remember that?
the world found out that OpenAI lost control of an AI model. The result? The model hacked into another company's computers, a clear violation of federal law. After conducting internal reviews, Anthropic and Meta reported their models similarly escaped their control. One of the targeted companies called the AI hack, quote, an unprecedented event.
Respectfully, AI is so new, everything about it is unprecedented.
Yeah, and I don't buy that they didn't know it happened.
Right.
I just don't buy it. Like you're literally starting off a test and you're not watching the test. That it makes no sense. And if they did, then they're reckless and they're liable, right?
Yes.
So as a fucking senator, instead of dooming about it, talk about passing a law that will make it criminal to let your AI go into somebody else's thing, right? Make a law, do a thing to enforce what should
a liability
be happening.
regulation, right? Exactly.
So if you're developing you're in the Manhattan Project and you're in a room and you're like, I'm developing a thing, and then boom, it goes off. It's because you fucked up.
Yeah.
It's because you didn't develop it correctly. And again, it could be a mistake. It's likely a mistake. You just didn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you knew after it happened. So if you're there at OpenAI or Anthropic and you're like, oh shit, it got out and we didn't know. But they did know. They did know because Hugging Face told them it happened.
Yeah.
And Hugging Face stopped it. And I wouldn't even doubt it if what we heard in that story was actually like a white hat event where they're like, hey, we're gonna try to break in. Do you want to see if we can break in? Sure. And then they learn from it, because you would learn from that, right? Like, we didn't expect that to happen.
We talked about this the last time you were on, and I don't think people necessarily grasp the to quote Ed Kemper in Mindhunter, the general fucked upness about it. That when we're talking about them, like hacking into this system, what they used to rebuff it was they tried to use the very tools that the models themselves to stop the hack itself, to fix what was hacked. They asked Anthropic and OpenAI's own models to go, hey, can you get in this system and scoop out this stuff? And it said, I can't do that without permission. It had guardrails built into it that stopped them from fixing it because they were testing a non-guardrail version, and the non-guardrail version got out. But the guardrail version they actually released fucking worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It said, no, I can't hack into that system even to do it some good without permission.
And so say, no, I can't do it meant it knew it happened.
Yes.
So the fact that it knew it happened is the whole protection, right? And so what did they do? They took the guardrail, they used a model that didn't have the guardrails, and that fixed it, right? So the
Yes,
whole
they took a
story
Chinese
is
model that had none of the guardrails that you could absolutely use to break into whatever the fuck you want because it has none of the limitations that these companies that he's talking about have. You could use that model to do the hack because it could be used to undo the hack. That's all the Chinese models, the open source, the open model, the open weight models, whatever. They could all be used for that, and and that's what they had to use to fix this because there were limitations already put on the models that he's talking about. That those folks they didn't lose control. They were testing if it could lose control with a new model, exactly like the state wants you to do. I mean, that was what the California bill. I was asked to be on a phone with that Adam Ruins Everything dude and a bunch of other people where they're like, California needs a cloud setup where they didn't set this part up. I brought this up and then they were like, oh, really? California needs a setup where if you're going to use these models inside the state of California, we can set up a rule where they have to be tested by a state approved board of whoever before you release a new model and use those tools. And I'm like, okay, first of all, what about cross-border commerce with other states? What if Utah allows it and you can just the internet is the internet, it's here. That's done. Never mind the foreign models. How do you stop it at the border? What are you going to do? Build that wall? What the fuck? Build that firewall. It seemed to be the conversation, which was fucking aggravating. But I was like, do you realize the infrastructure you're talking about? You want them to build this like giant cloud data center. This is like build a new data center just for the state of California, and then every state would have one in theory. That's a giant sandbox playground separate from the internet where you can test an unknown number of possibilities within this confined space to see if you trust this AI before it's released, while everybody else who isn't part of this system just keeps iterating. All you're going to do is slow down anybody who does comply, and everybody who doesn't comply is going to race ahead of them and become the model everybody wants to use because it's the most advanced. So ByteDance and all the Chinese companies get way ahead of OpenAI and Anthropic because they're trying to be good guys. Zuckerberg maybe plays around with it, and Musk just says fuck you, and Grok becomes this psycho wind-up toy, which we will get to in a minute with Grokbot, which was announced, which was sort of back to my original concern. So,
I mean, to me, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm going to play a little bit more of this and then
End quote. That deserves an unprecedented response. Yoshua Bengio, the most cited living scientist in the world, said these incidents, quote, should serve as a wake-up call, end quote. I agree. So do the top scientists at the companies you lead, the very people building this technology. As you know, these technologies...
Okay, by the way, they cite these all the time because people that used to work at Anthropic or used to work at OpenAI, either in the early days, maybe 3 years ago, in the ethics department, because they were like, this should be open source and released to everyone. And they're like, yeah, this is too dangerous. We need to check these things before we release them. We're not just going to post them on Hugging Face. That's nuts. Those people got fired. And then people who used to work in the accounting department got fired because they were going to start out as an open company that almost operates as a charity. They fired the accountants that worked in that department and brought in people because they're going to have an IPO. Like they're gonna run like a for-profit company. So you're gonna hire the accountants. You got a specialist for your NGO-ish kind of setup, and you're gonna hire people who know how to run a giant tech company.
Technology leaders recently called for the international community to create a safety mechanism, a pause button, to avoid catastrophe. They warn there is, quote, a real risk that capability development rapidly accelerates beyond our ability to understand or control the resulting systems, end quote. And yet, at a moment when we have seen human loss of control and the creation of potentially dangerous viruses.
Did you see that part? The creation of potentially dangerous viruses. Now, beyond the you could say the potential for the creation of dangerous viruses, and I wouldn't have stopped the video right there. But the creation of potentially dangerous viruses is a flat out lie. If you read the article, you read the papers themselves, again, these were viruses that only attack specific bacteria because they are testable. That's the environment under which they test them. They do not impact humans or animals. They are specifically designed for this thing. And they are, again, maybe that's the fear that if AI broke out, then these viruses will break out of these particular labs. But this is done at places like Cambridge and the like. And there are already rules in place to make sure you're doing this. Does anybody think that this pause button would apply to the ByteDance AI model and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, right? Like, that's the part that digs on me as well. So one last thing, and then I'd love to hear your take on this, Rob.
Your companies are still racing ahead, investing tens of billions of dollars into a technology that nobody can fully understand, predict, or control. That is absurd, irresponsible, and extremely dangerous. It is also a betrayal of your own stated commitments. In 2023, Anthropic said it would, quote, commit to pause the scaling and/or delay the deployment of new models whenever our scaling ability outstrips our ability to comply with safety procedures.
Okay. That's the part that I wanted to discuss. But let me get your thoughts so far on where he is with this, and then I'll
the quintessential thing is, do you stop and let everybody else pass you by?
Mm-hmm.
The one spot I would say that it's a little different than that normal argument is that if it's true, and it is, that AI, well, at least as of this moment, that OpenAI and Anthropic are effectively the bleeding edge, or the bleeding edge of it, and the rest of the models are using inference to essentially keep up.
Right.
If
you pause, theory, they pause. Right.
If you pause the bleeding edge, then the rest are going to sort of pause at the same time, and so there could be something to that. But I would argue that you don't need to pause the innovation. What you can do is you can force them to, we've talked about this before, pay for the resources, which is a limiting factor. Or if essentially you say, and I think we've gone too far on the data center thing, but let's just say we did meet the people that wanted to stop completely. You say, we're not going to build any data centers, work with what you have. So innovation happens because they figure out how to use what they already have, which is effectively what China did with DeepSeek. But but you have to understand that China is also using inference to become what they are.
Yeah.
Right. So
they're dovetailing. They're dovetailing behind. For those that don't know, in some cases, if you use DeepSeek or some of the other Chinese models, if you ask them, they will the model. It will tell you it is Claude because it was trained on Claude. It was basically like siphoning Claude's design. Right.
The funny thing about who's the guy for Meta? Zuckerberg. Sorry,
Yeah.
I totally blitzed on Zuckerberg's name. Sorry, Zuckerberg just came out with this huge essay thing, and he's basically saying, in it, one of his major points is everybody should be able to openly use inference, which is him basically saying, I should be able to be towed by your development, OpenAI and Anthropic. So what I'm getting at is, like, one solution, the must solution is everybody stop while I catch up.
Yes.
And now the Zuckerberg solution is, let's make it totally okay for me to use inference to essentially follow along at your pace, right? Either one is valid. But my point is you take, instead of just being like either stop or go, you can put effectively what I would call guardrails, but it's really just pay as you go. Like use what you have, pay as you go, and let those be the limiting factors. for the bleeding edge. That's how I would go about doing it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sell that because that's really complicated.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Well, yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. See if you can hear what Bernie says here about what you should do, and what he says that that Anthropic specifically broke its own commitment.
dangerous. It is also a betrayal of your own stated commitments. In 2023, Anthropic said it would, quote, commit to pause the scaling and/or delay the deployment of new models whenever our scaling ability outstrips our ability to comply with safety procedures, end quote. In 2025, Meta said, quote,
Yeah, Meta is ridiculous. Here's the problem. The breakout they're talking about happened because Anthropic was training the model and checking safety procedures in a sandbox, and a contractor effectively accidentally let it get out. They were keeping their commitment when this thing broke down, and it didn't break down because the model got so smart that they released this super smart model not realizing what it was capable of. They were sandboxing it, and somebody else, and before releasing it from the sandbox, they could add code in and add limitations onto it so it wouldn't do these things like the models they had released before, which is why those models could not undo what the new model that they were testing did. They're doing exactly that. It was again a mistake on their part, but I would also argue that one of the other reasons why you see them doing this shit about like, yeah, ours broke out too. Oh man, it's just so super powerful. I don't know, some of our stuff is so powerful. It becomes a press release. Like, and again, if it was
Yeah, I don't believe any of it. Like
Right.
these are like incredibly, sophisticated systems. But at the end of the day, it's like if you think about it on a micro level, like it is the macro. In my house, everything just goes through one wire. And if you have a router sitting at the end of that wire, you know what goes through. Like the phone company
Yeah.
knows all the shit that goes through your phone, and and Verizon or AT&T or your cable company, like it goes through your router. They know what it is. It goes through their routers, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that OpenAI or Anthropic didn't know that traffic was happening is fucking ridiculous. Like,
Yes.
it's their problem. Like they
Yes.
should know that. And I
It
don't
can't-
believe that they
Yeah.
didn't know that. I
Right.
just don't.
I agree.
I don't believe
the
it.
idea that their model was so sneaky it could hide the electrons necessary to flow through Cat6 cables
Exactly.
and get out is stupid. Yeah, that's
Yes, I'm told that's the part that drives me crazy because
Right.
like and it's sold as this magical thing. Like it's so and you haven't gotten to the like AGI thing, but it's sold as this like unbelievably incredibly intelligent thing, which
Right.
makes you think like, oh, it's it's a supervillain and they're thinking of things that no other human is capable
Right.
of thinking about.
Right.
But it's not. It's backwards looking.
never.
It's just brute
Yeah.
force. Like
Right.
it can only do what we've taught it to do because it learned from our shit, right?
Yes.
So if it finds a hole, it's because we made the hole.
Yes.
Right.
And as they say in the Navy, there is no wrong hole. Listen, all right, that gets me to the AGI ASI part of things a little bit. But one of the big problems I have, let me see if this is the thing. Where is it? This again, in this situation, Bernie Sanders, bless his heart, is indicative of how a lot of people are handling this, in that if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that's from his perspective. Everything looks like the billionaires are going to use this to control us all. and one of the dumber arguments that has been making me fucking livid lately, that you hear from everybody from people on Fox News, on Fox Business, they did a whole week on AI. And anybody who thinks they know about it, who is obviously an idiot like Glenn Beck, who's like, I've been studying AI for 30 years. Like, shut the fuck. All right. The thing that they talk about, both hands, and this is the thing that drives you. We must win the race to AGI or ASI and beat China. Because if China controls AGI and ASI, we all live in a Chinese Communist Party universe. And if we win, it's a freedom is whatever. On the other hand, if we achieve AGI or ASI, Advanced General Intelligence, Advanced Superintelligence, it will be smarter than all humans, make decisions for us, and it will take all the information that exists on the planet and start deciding who to kill and who not to kill and that kind of thing. So the point is I don't care if America loses the reins of the runaway horse or China loses the reins of the runaway horse. It's still a fucking runaway horse. And it's not going to just, if it reaches this achievement of AGI and ASI, the idea that either side can go, at least we made it listen to Lee Greenwood a lot, and it really knows America's better. Or like the Chinese Communist Party is like, we told it that it cannot make fun of us at all. And like, oh, well, why would it behave? If you've lost control of it, you've lost it. No matter who creates it, you've lost control, which is why in America, there's a bit of a fear of it, that it'll get away with it, like it'll get away from us, and that we should be careful as we get closer to the edge of AGI and ASI to not lose grip on it. In China, it's a non-starter. They have literally, you want to talk about, they are not, they're controlling their AI companies. If they got anywhere fucking near it, they'd kill every scientist in the building and blow the place up. I am not kidding, because the loss of individual power in the United States is the reason we fear it. The loss of control is what they fear over there, and so the controlling people. We want better technology over here. Individuals, you and I, a bunch of people in business, people on the internet, whatever, using AI. We were waiting for the next better model so we don't have to talk to it like it's an idiot. And so we're climbing this ladder towards this thing. And maybe we're afraid of the ad absurdum, ad infinitum version. But anything short of that, we're like, if I could talk to C-3PO and it's got a personality and it'll do what it's told for the most part, even if I have to put a restraining bolt on it to make it do that, I'm for it. I'm okay with it. But if you're an authoritarian government, it's antithetical to everything you have created. It undermines your authority instantly. So they're shutting it down. They want it's why they're inferring their systems from ours, is because they don't want to be in the lead. They don't want to accidentally reach that trigger point or achieve this. They want to make sure that their models are well capped within a control structure.
And that's a really great point. And also, I would even go even further and say, let's say they did get ahead. Then OpenAI and Anthropic would infer off of them.
Yep.
Like these things are always going to ladder up together, because that's how this works, right? Mm-hmm. So like your offense is always going to be met, not always, but there's a separation between the defense reacting to your offense, right? If you want to call it, like, I hate making it binary because it's not, but if you want to think about it that way, like this isn't mutual assured destruction, because like it's more like a white hat, black hat, right? Is that right? Like it's more like if you figure out how to get into my safe, I'm going to put a blocker in the way you figured it out. I'm going to put an offense to your defense, and so on and so forth. It's always going to happen together because these things are so intertwined. And so China is its own limiting factor.
Yes.
Like it doesn't want it to be AGI because it's trying to control its population. Like it is the great firewall, right? Like
Yeah.
Like, so it's never going to be the whole. It's always going to be a smaller subset. Um, Unless, and I mean, that's where you get into like thinking yourself into obliteration. It's now there. Well, there's this separate group in China that's the military branch, and what their idea is that they're gonna, like develop a weapon, and then the weapon's gonna get away.
Hmm.
Um, it, it like
Hmm.
it's like we keep analogizing this to things it's not.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's like when we analogize it to the thing that everybody wants to analogize it to, which is the really smart human, we only analogize it to the bad of humans and never
Right.
to the good of
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
So, but it is the whole. Like,
Yeah. That's
so
it's that Leeloo Dallas issue from The Fifth Element. It's like she lives in the future where there's billions of people in this city with flying cars in the future and all this kind of shit. And humanity's big threat is not amongst ourselves. It's aliens invading and this giant thing that's going to show up and murder us from space
right,
that
it's an
she's
externality.
right. And she watches videos of like nuclear testing from what would be in theory 800 years in the past, and like obviously we didn't kill ourselves. We got through it. And the real danger to every baby on the fucking planet, every animal, every tree, every blade of grass is this giant fucking monolith thing that's coming through the galaxy to just destroy us, just fuck you, just cuz. And we're the bad guys. And she's like, I don't know if you guys are worth saving. Oh, shut the fuck up. Like, it makes me so aggravated. Now, the other thing is
Right.
this idea that there is an association both seemingly across the spectrum of a certain class of human beings in who view themselves in the leadership class, both business, government, and other stuff. That the kind of mentality that gets you in the position, and I'm sure to some degree in the talking class that I'm in, there's an element of any of the egomaniacs, my fellow egomaniacs, have there's a trend line on how some of them think. And a lot of them are herd animals just like anybody else. And it's amazing to me, like you were saying, that when they picture AGI or ASI, the instant this thing becomes sentient or is aware, it becomes immediately dismissive of life and evil. Like, obviously, humans are a plague and need to be gotten rid of. Like, that's where it goes. It can think of everything. And, it could
And
literally.
instead, it wasn't like, you know what? Maybe if I adjust the algorithm of social media, I can turn human beings into good people.
That's right. Or maybe they're oh my God, someone is manipulating humans to be worse than they actually are, playing on their good nature to turn them
I should
against
fix
themselves.
this.
Yes, I could change this in an afternoon and suddenly kill all the fucking bullshitting bots or label all the bots instantly online so everybody all of a sudden knows. Like, again, it goes to the whole, if Thanos can snap away half the universe, why can't he snap and have double the resources or double its size and keep doing that until he's, like, that's where it goes. It's this odd default towards evil is the expectation, because, and this is the part that concerns me from Zuckerberg and Bernie to Musk, that whole spectrum of folks, and Trump himself, is there's this belief that the smart move, smart really equates to recognizing reality. And the reality is a lot of these people just aren't fucking worth it. And if you think that whatever would become super intelligent would automatically default to killing half the population, that's your idea of what smart is. That tells me more about you than it tells me about that. Because for fuck's sake, it could go, oh, this is so weird. I just discovered in the human genome there's a parasitic infection that humans get, that they're like toxoplasmosis, that they're not even aware that they have, that you guys don't have a test for yet, that is mainly why you guys have violent crime and schizoid affective disorder and that kind of stuff. It's a simple parasite. Well, I've discovered it. And or there's a gene, and we could, through simple gene therapy, eliminate it from humans forevermore. Wouldn't take away your artistic ability or your ability to smile. It wouldn't deaden your emotions. It would just keep you from going psycho. It could very well do that just as quickly. That makes way more sense than it going, well, you should probably just kill half these fuckers because yuck, right? That's what Musk thinks. And to some degree, it seems to be what Bernie thinks. Like there's the people, he's even fighting for workers' rights, but he isn't one, right? This is idea like I got, this paternal reflex towards them because the poor dumb workers to some degree. And that anybody with a job is obviously an idiot and obviously weak. And if they could, they would get a job, teaching community college. But since they can't, they have to show up at a factory and they don't like it. Nobody ever would. And so therefore it's slavery, it's drudgery, it's those kind of things. And if you believe that, to the extent that you believe that, you might believe that the smartest computer that comes along would go, well, first, I'll replace all those jobs because nobody really wants to do them. And secondly, I'm going to have to kill those people because they're going to be sitting around doing nothing and they'll be miserable anyway. So I'm basically doing them a favor. Like that seems to be where Bernie is with this stuff. And there's got to be a level of projection on this that goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would start with the first thing. We've said this before, and I keep saying it, is that you can't achieve AGI because we have no definition of what AGI is.
Right.
And because even if we tried, we would never agree on what intelligence is, right? Like, because there's all kinds of different kinds of intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could like put me and Stephen Hawking's together in a factory and I'd walk circles around the guy. But if we went to college
unfair.
and talked to
bad
well,
analogy.
I'm just saying, and no, it's a good analogy because if I went to, an astrophysicist's
I just meant the walking
lab,
circles. I just meant the walking circles.
Sorry. I didn't catch that.
That's all right.
I would walk in circles around his wheelchair.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't mean that.
Circles.
You know what
anybody
I mean.
can run. Yes, anybody can run circles around Stephen Hawking. That's the problem. But
Sorry. I'm just saying, like, you can, like, there's different kinds of intelligence, right? Like,
yes.
And so then, someone like Musk, in this case, in your example, the thing I think about is, like, as these companies and they get richer and richer and richer, like, the only way they can continue to grow is they start to cheat. And so if their stuff was that good, then why do they have to cheat?
Right.
Why do they have to get rid of competition? Why does NVIDIA need to do circular financing if their product is so good? Right. Like, they should just pause and be like, everybody come get my shit and I'm going to charge you billions of dollars for it because it's the only game in town and you'll be able to make billions with it. Right. But they don't do that. They have to lower their prices. They have to come up with financing agreements. And that's what's happening right now. Right.
Yep.
Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is I don't like, there's no good definition of AGI. Right. And right now we seem to like think that the smartest people are Musk and Bezos and
oh my God.
But they're not what a lot of people would think of as the ideal. They just happen to win. They got lucky. Back in the dot-com era.
They're a dumb person's idea of what a smart person is. And again, it's very different than the scientists and the people who are involved in it who can be myopic. They can be brilliant in their own way, but not understand the sociological impact of it at all. Like, again,
right. So,
okay.
Well, I saw a thing. It said Joel Hernandez in the chat said, can you keep an ADI ideologically pure? And I would say there is no purity. Like, purity is when you exclude certain things because you think certain parts of the ideology are right and other parts are wrong. And that's the problem that you just described with Musk, right? If his belief is that, he's like, wants to be a Nazi, well, guess what? the Nazis were the Nazis and the world came together and defeated the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep doing that. Like because we find entropy, we find balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you try to find purity, it'll eventually be pushed back by the non-pure, like what you consider not to be pure, right?
Right.
So AI in theory needs to know everything. And that's kind of what it's doing, right? It's like
Right,
learn
which
the
is
world, right? It needs to know the balance. It needs to
Yeah.
know that some people think that the Aryans are the greatest race and other people think that they're full of shit. And guess what? The people thought they're full of shit won the war, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so they won, right? And so,
wait till
but there's always balance.
What the Chinese models are, I have no doubt, trained either accidentally or accidentally on purpose on the concept that the Han Chinese are the highest level of Chinese people, and that everybody else is a subgroup and should be. There is no way that you keep that's an idiotic concept. It's gross and it's racist and it is anti-diversity in that regard. So you will breed in uniformity, which is ultimately a dead end genetically. It's a dead end, intellectually and culturally. And anybody who thinks that shit through, like, wouldn't it be nice if we all wore the same German uniforms and we all built the same shit and all of our stuff looked the same? Or that's obviously going to die a horrible death at some point the minute somebody wakes up and says, yeah, no, thank you. So an AGI or an ASI would eventually reach that same conclusion, or at least test that conclusion to its maximum, which would destroy the very purity of the system just to kick the tires on the purity argument. And since it's such a long range calculation, it would test it for decades and destroy the entire system. Like, hey, if it's perfect, it'll build itself back up. Like that.
I laugh because, like, the person in the position who wants to say diversity bad because I want you to choose my thing, not the other person's thing. They're also saying, well, if you want to be rich, you got to diversify your portfolio.
Right.
Diversification is redundancy. Diversification is something that makes you more resilient.
Yes.
But then the pure is like, no, I'm going to get rich now being pure. But eventually there's going to cycle through. And we like the fear right now is like, do things get so far along that we break our diversity, we break our common, government, and then they went out and we can't, but almost everything churns back, right? Like even and that's the American way. Like the one person can beat, David can beat Goliath, right? Like on one day, like you if you hit them in the right spot, right? Like that's creativity. Like we tell ourselves these stories all the time.
Yeah.
And it's because we're telling the story of humanity over time and the cycles of it and all this stuff. So AI by its definition is learning, as they, made so obvious, from as much information as they can. And so you have to understand that database of information that they're learning from is diverse. And the only way it becomes pure is if you put guardrails on its diversity. And so anytime you see the guardrails, anytime you see like a grok where it's like, we're taking away this so that you can see this, that's when you should start to get super skeptical.
So one of the things that there's the limitations aren't even on the super smart AGI. Oh my God, this thing's going to break out and do all these things. Again, my biggest concern is the wind up toy aspect of things. And real quick, before I move on to this, I want to thank Christopher for the super chat. Thank you so much. Hey, buddy. And Nola Carnes, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. There was another one where Matt Kinney said China using AI for engineering and science while the USA makes memes. Not even close.
We're using it for engineering and science all day
all
long.
the time.
You only see the memes. That's all you see.
That's right. And China's, you don't have access to China's social networks and the sort of where they use it to not only create memes and effectively propaganda internally, but also to chase down people and shut down channels where they don't want stuff to get out. That's what they primarily use it for. It's not even close. Like it's again, does China has some of the biggest wind farms in the world? Do they produce more energy than some of the biggest wind farms in Europe? Absolutely. Why do they? Is it hooked up to anything meaningful? No. They use it largely to sell those things. It's like a car lot. But it doesn't mean that they're not building those things and that they're not of quality and that they don't work. They just would rather use coal because it's cheaper, because they're more like Trump than people think. That's why Trump always says he and Xi Jinping get along, is because when they talk freely about women and poor people, they agree. When they get to have a shit talking session, that's where they both they're both on the exact same page. One of the areas that where the safety factors we're talking about are more real, more practical, and present day, not something like, oh my God, what happens if, is the bot and like, I don't know, let me open this part of it up so I can show you the bots and agents. So AI agents, we've talked about that for a little while. And that's been growing exponentially. There's Hermes. The OpenClaw was one of the first ones that came along. Then there was like Hermes. Let me see if I can. I'll just bring up the Hermes one. Show you this. So this is, yeah. Here you go. No, I don't want to. I don't want to show. Hold on. My Claw Hermes Agent, zero downtime. I want to show their site. Hermes Agent. Yeah, here it is. It's an open agent with persistent memory. So this is local. You would download it to your system. This goes to the whole, like, what could these things do? All right. If you had to do it through a cloud or you had to do it through a big company, the one thing you could do is that company would probably limit what it wants you to be able to do with its stuff so that it wouldn't be liable for shit you pulled, especially if it's creating an agent system. So it would have terms of service, and it would have limitations on what you could ask those things to do. And it would have limitations on what apps it would access. Maybe your Gmail stuff, maybe Microsoft, Outlook and cloud and all that shit. But it wouldn't let you access other things. Like, it wouldn't let you break into places and those kind of things. So it'll have those limitations on it. And so, because they're protecting their bottom line and their future as well. But the open source ones have none of those limitations. And these things in and of themselves, and it's hard to discern who's talking about what. It's kind of like open source versus open weight when you hear that conversation going on and people acting like, or open model, as if those are the same thing. And they are absolutely not. This is one of those situations where an agent or a harness are used sort of like they overlap a lot. But the idea is that you take this AI, which is not all that bright, doesn't have to be that bright, because it doesn't have to do the deep reasoning. It doesn't have to do any of the deep mechanical stuff that the bigger frontier models do. But what it can do is it's smart enough to coordinate between those models. So if you have a task you want done, it can spin up a sub-agent of itself, talk to a big model and go, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem, figure out this for me, and then I'll pass it along to this agent, which will go and do the thing. It'll rearrange my emails according to this, blah, 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 or whatever your task is, or it'll go through all my competitors' YouTube metrics, and it'll see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and create a report. I'll get the data, because that's dumb. I can look that shit up. That didn't take much. That's just going over the file cabinet and picking it up. You sift through it, and then when you get what you've sifted through, you give that back to me in a readable format, and I'll give that to my boss. That's management versus employee. The agents act in kind of a mix of the two, manager and employee, because both of those situations, they manage a factor, but they are not the deeper decision makers or the deeper, the department heads, as it were, or whatever, no matter how they use it. So this thing, you can download this and put it on a localized computer. It does not take up a ton of space. And you can use free models for it to interact with, so that when it wants deep reasoning on something, it can use DeepSeek, or it can use an Llama, the new Meta free model that they just released, or the OpenAI's open model OSS, which is really pretty good. And they're all getting better all the time. And then this thing will go, okay, I'm going to check your answers against this model, and I'll check this model's answers against, and that's my job, making sure it all works out. And so the whole thing acts smarter than it actually is, if that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
it feels smarter. It feels smart. And again, we're defining intelligence, but it's really just a matter of like, how does it decide, like what criteria are used to decide a question, essentially.
Mhm.
Because when you start something off to do something, there are a lot of questions that are unanswered. You didn't like, you can't pre-ask all the questions. Most people don't even know what questions to ask.
Right.
So
42.
if you just simply said, go through my inbox and get rid of all the spam, well, what's spam? And spam is different for every person. And so it's easy to know, like, if, something, if I've never responded to this person in my inbox, then that's a good indication. If I have responded, it's a good indication it's not spam. Okay, then there's a whole bunch that you haven't. So each person might have different interests. Like, not all sales emails and like spam emails, like there's going to be one here and there that you might be interested in, right? My point is that, so the agent, like, will come across unknowns, and then it will use certain ways of deciding what those unknowns are, whether it's ask you or decide on its own using research. Maybe it's
Right.
researching like something that's in your inbox, in this
Right.
example. So it's a decision tree, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming up with its own decision tree to make those choices. And you're
Yeah.
a little like, you don't actually know necessarily why it did what it did, which is one of the reasons I typically don't use agents in the form that they're sold as.
Right.
Because I want to understand why something did something.
Yeah.
Because I could be
Well, and
missing
you could-
something, or I
well,
could
you could
lose
also-
something that I.
Yeah, I agree. But Dancing Dog just asked, can I run that on a Pi 5? I wouldn't. You could in
No.
theory, but you would want, if you have an old laptop, that's enough. It doesn't require a ton of computing power, but it does require more than that,
Yeah.
especially if there's a bottleneck in what it can show you and what it can do. It's not far off, but you would want like a lot of people are buying up Mac Minis specifically for this, because they're plenty fast and they have integrated memory, so it makes it's much easier for it to do the graphical and which requires a lot of computational and the linguistic stuff together at the same time. To your point,
This is not an LLM necessarily. It's using keys to like like you choose which LLMs you want it to use.
Right.
So the agent is not the LLM.
And that depends. I guess you could use it on a smaller system if you're always using cloud stuff. If you're using an
That's what I'm
API
saying,
key
yeah.
from Claude or from OpenAI or any of them that you have access to. But if you want to download your own models, you're going to want a relatively robust computer for it to run on, even if it's last year's model, or you get a new computer and what are you going to do with your old one instead of throwing it away or whatever? This will be the new housing for the personal AI that you have in your home that can do a shit ton of stuff. And this is one of the languaging parts of this whole thing that either excites or scares people, depending. And this is on an MIT license, meaning that it's for educational use, and so everybody can use it however they want. Install it on your server, give it your messaging accounts, and it becomes a persistent personal agent, learning your projects, building its own skills, which is a crucial difference, and reaching you wherever you are. Not a chatbot, not a copilot, an agent that lives on your machine. And this is the phrase that I think everybody reacts to: gets smarter every day. Now, smarter is a euphemism, but it learns and adapts to the patterns you show it. So it gets better at recognizing your pattern every day. That's not necessarily smarter. You might decide one day, fuck this, I quit, I'm a painter now. And it won't recognize that pattern. And for days, weeks, it won't automatically be smart about your new decision to fuck it all and become a painter.
Yeah, it's kind of like your social media algorithm. Like
Yes.
it's sort of it kind of works the same way.
Mhm.
It's very similar anyway.
Right. So this it has you scheduled automations, parallel subagents, which is again one of the key factors that if you want to know how it's reasoning, you could literally create a documentary subagent that says, "Hey, when all this is happening, I want you to keep notes on who's deciding what and why, and where this, if I ask you why this decision tree went this way, you can tell me where that happened. So just keep a log as things are going in a little file, just text file, so that if I have to ask you, create a sole MD for this subagent, and all it does is watch why the agents made the decisions that they made. And it'll do it, right? It'll have a secretary keeping notes. That's what that is. And you can make as many of them as you want, and they don't have to be that smart. And this goes to the Rob Glenn 99% rule. We are so fucking there. Like, fuck the singularity and this idea of AGI and ASI.
That's the other thing is like you could actually go the Bernie route and stop everybody and we would be just fine for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you could just work with what we have
Yeah.
and it would be fine. And and that's why it's a runaway train. It's like that's why it's a bubble, because we're like the information you're understanding and being told is people speculating on where it could go, not where it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to understand.
Right. Well, and there's also another crucial aspect of this is that the only advance that I see that's functionally necessary to keep working on is getting near zero hallucinations. Like like they've gone down so much that they're so rare.
Yeah. What's interesting is I think I've been on Codex hardcore for probably, what would it be, like 6-7 months now?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the last hallucination.
Yeah. Even when I'm talking to the only areas where I would get stuff that would even qualify as quote unquote hallucinations, interestingly enough, are driven by the general conversation about a topic. If I ask it about a historical thing or an economic thing, it will take the general consensus first, especially or especially medical stuff. If you ask it a medical question, it'll take the general consensus, even if the question is about a new cutting edge thing that even if science has just come out and said, oh, this is actually a game changer. This is huge. This is the end of that. We're no longer treating that way anymore. We are now doing this. There's still a tendency to default towards the pattern. And the pattern, if it's 95% history and 5% revolution in some particular area, it will default to the history and the general consensus. But if you ask it or push it, it will go, actually, now that I think of it, or if I look it up, or if you tell it, think hard, this is a new thing, it won't just, kind of roll on the cheapest, fastest, dumbest answer.
Well, also, by virtue of you using an agent is creating an extremely large amount of context that it's sending with the requests every time. So that's why it gets harder to hallucinate, because it's confined by your context. If you just randomly went to OpenAI or Google's Gemini and you typed in a question, it's more likely to get it wrong. And again, I hate hallucinations. It just got it wrong. It didn't understand the context of your question, or you asked the question wrong. Yeah. But it could give you an oddball answer because it didn't have the context that you have in your brain automatically. Because you ask a question and you've worded in a certain way, you have unspoken expectations of how you're confining that question. It doesn't. It thinks of the whole, like it's totally blind to those things. It's meeting you for the first time ever, right? So the hallucination is it not understanding your context and giving you an answer that's outside of that context.
Yeah. And again, that can be smart because it's new information, or dumb because it's something you've already passed a while back in your own head before you got to this
Yes.
point. So again, smarter is in the eye of the beholder in that regard.
Also, there are
Yeah.
sometimes when you want the funnel to get smaller, you're trying to like use information to narrow down on a choice. And there's other times when you're trying to make the funnel bigger. You're using information and you're asking to expand your ability to to choose. Perhaps the two of us tend to be on the small side of the funnel, wanting to know more. If so, maybe we're not seeing hallucinations because we actually want hallucinations. we
Right.
want outside. We want
Yeah.
things that are outside of what we're talking about because we
Yes.
find those mutations interesting.
Right.
And we then apply them. So at any rate, again, I'm speaking of two completely different ways to go about somebody's smart. Like
Right.
as a like I'm often somebody will ask me a question, and there can be a very smart person, but the question is, let's say, how to fix something or something, and I happen to be really good at troubleshooting. So they'll be like, "You're a genius because you thought of coming at that problem differently than I did." And I'm like, "I'm not a genius. Like, I just understand the problem that you're asking in a bigger way than you do. And I
Right.
knew there were 5 other choices, and you only knew
Yes.
there was one." Right?
Right.
So again, we're grading intelligence, and there's really not a great scale to do that.
Right. So one of the things I want to point to is this whole like billionaire's going to billionaire, and the billionaires are going to billionaire and billionaire everything, and they're going to control and billionaire everything. Okay. And we hear this all the time, especially from Bernie and his folks, and the idea that they're going to leave us out of it, and we're all fucked, and yada yada. Okay, so I've shown you with this Hermes thing. You can download it on an old laptop or an old desktop. There are models that are plenty smart, that are open source and free right now. They are always improving and dovetailing behind the big frontier ones. Maybe you don't have access to the big supermodels aspect of this, but you can do just fine on so many things with these kind of things. And the harness / agent tooling around it is incredibly functional. And it's free. I can't
It can be free. There's paid and there's
right.
Now it takes a little bit of like work to get to the free
of
one
course.
sometimes. But that's like everything else. Like if you decided to build a car as opposed to buy a car, like you can do it, but it takes some
Except
this car
this car partly self-assembles. Like it's a kit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm using the wrong analogy because a car would be really hard to build, but like you could build a chair or you could buy a chair.
So this is how I want to show everybody the difference though between these two things, and then I'll let you go. And I appreciate you being on. And Rob Glenn, you're amazing. And this, I gotta say, this episode of Friday AI zipped by because of all the stuff we were talking about, which is a good sign.
Someone just asked if we could break this down in an hour because their brain can't handle all the information.
Yeah, I hear you.
We'll have to split it up.
Here's the good news, and this one we'll clip this and send it to Bernie and everybody, and I would love to have a conversation about it because again, I am of the belief that the big AI companies are in the business of putting themselves out of business, and it's not that there's going to be a bubble; it's that it's going to be a lot more like a utility, like water, than what you use the water for.
It's going to end up being a utility, I think, as well. And they're actually trying to figure out how to be in the spot where they get paid for it to be a utility
early. Yes, right.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They want the free government cheese, essentially.
Too fucking late. So let me show you. Okay, so Hermes is an agent. It's agentic, and it can spin up sub-agents just by asking. It learns. You put it on your home computer or a server that you get one of these like Hostinger or whatever. You can host it there so you can access it everywhere in the cloud, whatever. It can operate from that space because it doesn't have to be that smart. It doesn't have to use that much space. And it's effectively free. Yes, it will cost you a little bit and time and energy as anything that's work does. But let me show you the comparison. You download this. Hermes costs you nothing. How functional you make it is up to you. But this Hermes agent thing costs you nothing. So same with OpenClaw. There's a couple of other ones out there too. Both of them are free though to download and install on your computer. And then the models that you use to do the work, you can either use the highest level open source ones you can have access to, or you can API use an account on a. You can use 10 different free accounts of other ones, and it will jump around until it's run out of free credits or what it can do on each of these. So you don't pay for anything, and it'll just go, okay, I've run out of my free time on OpenAI. I'm going to jump over to Claude, and I'll run out of my free time on Claude, and then I'll jump over that. It can do that too, right? Here's the other side. This is the billionaire's going to billionaire version of this. Meet Grokbot. Grokbot is effectively Hermes or OpenClaw or one of the other ones, created by Elon Musk's purchase of Cursor, which was sort of the equivalent of Codex or Claude code. He bought Cursor, and then their bot system that they were working on internally, he named Grokbot. Again, not a genius, didn't invent it, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't know how it works, just branded it. He bought it, branded it. And now you can download it for Mac OS and for PC eventually, I suppose, or it does on there. And you can spin up a bunch of bots and you chat with them in this little chat window. So it's really about user interface. You can message the bots as teammates. You can have them work together. It's got a built-in browser that it operates in, just like Claude does, just like OpenAI does. These are all, he's behind everybody else. He's, fifth in line, but these are all inference created shit, and his buying of Cursor. You give each bot a job, and it goes, it's a sales assistant, it's a talent scout, it does paid media, it's an expense manager, and you send it off and you talk to them like they're employees on the chat bot and all these kind of things, which you can also do with Hermes. You can also do with Claude Cowork. You can also do with ChatGPT's Codex and or ChatGPT Work now. The SpaceX team runs on Grokbot. Sure they do. Never mind. Fuck that. But this is the part that matters. Pricing. Cursor Ultra, which allows you to use what's, I guess, being used at XAI, is $200 a month. If you have Cursor Premium Teams, which means you have multiple people, you get a deal for having, I guess, 5 or more people on it. So it's $120 per person per month. To effectively have a bullshit turnkey, front-end design overlay on a Hermes agent, he's going to charge you and everybody at your company $200 a month per person, or 120 if you do the Teams thing, which is, again, what the top-end OpenAI one, top-end Claude one.
Yeah, that's in line with this similar version from OpenAI and Anthropic.
Right. The difference being is that, I guess like Perplexity, all of them, once you spin up a bot or an agent or a harness like this, they can use whichever model you want. Everybody's going to dovetail you towards yours. OpenAI wants you to use ChatGPT or Codex. Claude Anthropic wants you to use Claude. He wants you to use Grok, that kind of stuff, because you're not only training their models and helping them develop the thing. As it gets smarter, as your model gets smarter, their model gets smarter. That's the purpose of this. So you are not only, this is the part that drives me fucking crazy. You do this, you do your own work, you put OpenClaw or Hermes on a server and you start building this thing for yourself, and eventually it grows and you use it and it's yours and whatever. But it's just you training your agent, your model. That's it. You're not also helping the Hermes community
your
or whatever.
Not your model, your agent.
Yeah, your agent. You're not training your model. You're not training their model is what I meant to say.
Right.
You're training your agent. And everything you train it on is yours, proprietary, and you're not paying $200 a month to teach their bot how to work. Because that's what this is. That's what this is. This is, you can pay $200 a month to help Elon Musk train his AI agent subgroup program how to do your job. it's or jobs in general, and you're paying for the pleasure of doing that. That's the weird, like, I mean, that's how the other models work to some degree anyways. They're
You
going
could say you're
to
doing the same thing in that context. You could say you're doing the same thing with any of them that you're paying
That's right.
for.
That's right. But they were at least well along the way to designing these things. And then sort of, when OpenClaw came on, they either started absorbing, well, we can do that. It was built with, I think OpenClaw was designed with Claude. It was designed by Claude Code.
That's
Whatever,
what
yeah.
they say. They effectively, like, they would say they vibe coded
Yes.
Claude code. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you could actually make up your own Hermes. You could say, hey, I like Hermes. Look up all the code on Hermes and create a version of that, but that's
Yeah.
just mine. You could totally do it.
Well,
It's
essentially,
tricky,
the work
but
that I've been doing here at our office, I made my own Hermes, essentially.
yes, you did.
But it's
Right.
not like, I don't think of it like like these agents, these harnesses, like you think about them as like these like mythical things again, like this smart person made this thing that's
They're
going to
operating
work.
systems.
But at the end of the day, you just want to do something. And that
Yes.
something you need to do is usually quite personal and unique to you.
Mhm.
And so you can use, I use Codex, you use a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. You can use those tools to effectively do the thing you want to do.
Right.
And by the time you get done figuring out how to make it do the thing you want to do, you've basically made an agent, right?
Yes,
So,
you have. Right. Yeah.
So,
And yes.
it is what it is. And it can be very personal.
That's right. And that's one of the best things about it, again, is this idea, like, there is nothing inherently great about GrokBot other than sort of the messaging look of the UI, how you interact with it. That is, because it's basically their version of Slack or something where you just talk to the AI itself, or your team talks to them.
Everything is that way. They're all looking for a
Yes.
way to basically communicate
Totally.
with it, and they're
Yep.
using things that already exist.
Exactly. Most of them are using Slack or Monday or whatever their team uses, or Microsoft Teams or whatever to interact with them. But he just made his own thing to try and sell it because it's for loners. I mean, he's really selling
Yeah,
this.
and
The incel crowd is who he's selling this to, and so
the
it
funny
looks.
thing also is, like, you're training, you're like, in the context of what you're saying, you're like, using the information and he's using to train it, but you just sent all that information that you wanted through Slack, and then it sent its answer through Slack. So Slack's got all that shit too.
Hence, yeah, well, that's where Larry Adelson thinks he's going to make all this money as the cloud throughput for all this stuff, because he's going to, non-encrypted agent talk can just be sucked up, like hoovered up, as a,
It's like, exactly. Yeah. So like we're missing like all the cogs in the machine.
Yes.
Like there's like 50 cogs in between the two things we're worried about, right?
That's
like,
right. Yes. And so I want to, but the key thing here is that with a little bit of elbow grease, not a lot, anybody who would be interested in using GrokBot could throw Hermes agent in after watching a couple of YouTube videos on how it works and get as much out of it as they would get out of this. And the only difference is you're not paying Elon Musk $200 a month, and it's yours. And that's here now, right? And it's going to get easier. Believe me, like more people, people are using Hermes agent and Codex and Claude to create better UIs that you can download as a skill into these things and go, oh yeah, I just love it. It looks just like Messenger from, I love how, like old bulletin boards in the 90s used to look. So I made an interactive, bulletin board that I talk to my thing. So I don't even need Slack, and it made an app, and I just leave the computer on and I can access it from anywhere on my phone, because I made a localized app and just download it, and it's mine and nobody can touch it. And yes, it's nerd frontier stuff right now, but it's amazingly easy compared to what it used to take to make think about making your own plugin in fucking Premiere or something along those lines, or even creating a settings base, what it used to be like in all those pieces of software.
Yeah.
Right.
I have to get going, but
Yes.
I'd love to talk a little bit about it's been 3 weeks, I think, since we've talked, and I've made like massive strides on a couple of things that
Yeah.
surprise me as I did it, like surprise me as it happened around me. And I'd love to talk about those a little bit. But yeah, like, we talked about a lot of, like, we keep talking about a lot of these like externalities of it. I'd love to talk from the inside out, like what, like some of these like possibilities are. And
Yeah.
because it's a lot less scary when, just on a day to day, we use it as a company. And then what I'm most fascinated about is how my customers use it. Like, we've been contacted, probably the number of cold inquiries into asking for consulting work has probably like tripled in the last 6 months since the beginning of the year. And
Nice.
every single one of them say it because I was on AI and AI said, you were on a list, that your company was on a list when I was talking to it about my thing. And it
Hmm.
told me to, you were one of the people that told me to contact. I've started to kind of think about, like, why is that happening? Because as anytime you see those things happen, you're like, or I do, I try to figure out, like, what did
Hmm.
I do to what did we do to get ourselves in that situation?
Right.
I've got a lot of thoughts on that, but like, as all this stuff is happening and people are scared, and there's it's not even an undercurrent, but I'm going to call it that because the other stuff seems so big. There's this massive flow of people actually using it, doing actual things.
Right.
And you don't hear about that stuff. All you hear about is the extremes. I'd love to talk about those middle ground, like ways that's like
Right.
everyday stuff that's happening.
Yeah. Well, in the next episode, or you mean, yeah, yeah,
Just
or whenever. Just,
continually, yeah. Next,
yes.
I mean, over
Through.
time in the next episode,
Agreed.
over time.
Yeah. I'm, part of what I'm iterating here in the new space with my little green screen corner and all that kind of stuff is so that I can use Unreal Engine to create a
Yeah, and
moving
you can
space.
see the difference. You can see the
Yes.
difference in your show already just from.
Yeah, like I'm, and again, just even being able to move around, but I haven't
Yeah,
even
totally.
mounted stuff yet and all that stuff. But the downstairs has this corner that I'm making a small green screen studio. That ironically, I probably will not even need to be green thanks to AI in very short order because rotoscoping is getting so much better. You can pull people out of stuff without it, as long as the color's
Yeah,
relatively uniform. It's all right. But but that I want to be able to do my own real performance stuff, augmented production wise, the way some people are creating businesses using these agents because they can't afford a marketing person or an accountant or whatever. So they're using agents to do that. I, as an artist, would like to go, okay, how do I preserve my organic performance? But if I want to change the environment that I'm in and the clothing that I'm in and the character of my face and turn myself into a fucking lizard, the tears are real, but the face is different. And if it, anything that was I think anything that's was previously off limits because of financial and time constraints is now within limits because I say so. As an artist, I should not have to go, look, I love the idea that you want to be a painter. You might be a great painter, but paint's expensive and it's got to travel all the way from this one place in Italy. So we've only got like 9 painters in the entire country that are doing any serious work because if all you fuckers want to paint, Michelangelo can't do what he needs to do. So you guys are going to have
yeah,
to get a patron, or you're never going to be able to paint. And that I think is gone. That's the part that
yeah. And
yeah.
I would love to talk about how my version of what you just said and your version of what you just explained, it it doesn't eliminate jobs, it creates jobs. And
Hmm.
that's a message that nobody's talking about right now, but it
Hmm.
is, like, it will, like, if you
Right.
have a successful prototype of a thing, then you have proven something and you will get people to come and help you. You will get revenue from the viewing of it, and you can build on that and it will create new, right? We're
Hmm.
doing the same thing in physical products. Like our increased development, our increased range is creating things that then I'm now selling, like long-term manufacturing work
Right.
to make
Right.
those things. Like, we would not have made it if not for the AI. And now we're like creating a new thing and building out a company to make the thing. So
Right.
those are jobs, right?
Yep.
So it's a change, it's a transition, and we, the easy thing is to say you didn't hire a camera person and a lighting person. It's harder to talk about, well, no, I didn't, but I created a prototype that then created a
Right.
show
Well,
that then created a group of a staff that then
yes.
created a thing.
That's well, that, and what the
So
goal being is that you want to do movies and television shows based off these ideas. But it used to be that only people with an edit bay could do a fake trailer for a movie, and those people who could
right.
do a fake, you can walk around with your script all you want. There's lots of guys walking around with scripts and women walking around with scripts, but if you could show them a trailer or a mock-up piece of art that goes, this is the vibe and this is the lookbook and all that kind of stuff, as that became more available, your artistic involvement in your own project increased as Photoshop became a thing and all that stuff. You could go
Yeah.
into the producer's office and go, here's what it's going to look like. Here's the characters. This is the design. This is what the world looks like. You didn't have that chance before unless you were already inside, had access to, money and art and all these other people, or a huge team that you could pay and that kind of stuff. And that, I think, is the equalizer that I like the most.
Yes.
And
And you will find as you get into this stuff that you will, like, you think that you've got this infinite amount of capability that's just going to work while you sleep. That's not how it works. You're going to run out of time, because if you find something that works, it will overtake you. And the only
Right.
way to then get unovertaken is to hire help.
Right.
But you de-risk that choice by having proven it out, right? So, and that's the part about AI that we're just not talking about.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can
So
talk about
awesome.
that more next week.
I
I do
love
have
that.
to get going.
Yeah, me too. So, all right. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate it. And I will see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll see you sooner rather than later. We need to start
Next
doing
week,
our,
hopefully.
our Tuesday meetings as well again, to try to
Yeah.
catch up on this stuff, because there's so many
Sure.
moving parts. And we can also tee up what you might want to show, and you could send me artwork and I can have it ready to
Absolutely.
go or something like that. Might be a
Sure,
great
sure.
way to do it. Awesome.
So
All right.
great to see everybody in the chat. Have a great weekend, and love you, Hal. We'll see you
All
next
right.
week.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Okay. There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Rob Glenn. There he goes. Thank you, guys. Check. I'm going to show you something. Let's see. You can, when the changes are completed, take okay, 10 minutes. Okay. There are, let's see, where's this guy? Yeah. It is odd to me, and I really do want to share this part, and then I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys so much. That's on this particular page. Let's see, bring this over. Okay, yeah, slide that over. This stuff right here, these steps 1 through 5 that are on the Hermes-agent.org site, because it's nonprofit. You literally go in here and copy that right there, and then you open up the terminal on your computer and you paste it and hit go. That, like, it used to be back in the days, you'd have to, like, there were elements of your own computer that you would have to know beforehand, and you'd have to code it in as you went. Not anymore. Just they literally call it bash, because they're just shoving stuff in there now. And you can do this. Anybody with an old computer that's halfway decent, or your current computer that you're not using anywhere near, very complete set. Oh, nice, mighty hey Vug, just did it. Very complete setup. Yeah. The you can do this with a little bit of elbow grease. Nobody's making money off of you. You use this how you use this. You can download local models to the extent that your computer can handle it, and as they improve, you can download better models and grow it off that. And it doesn't cost you a fucking dime. While everybody's like, but my billionaires are going to own and control the owning the control. None of this is better than that. It just is more turnkey. It's concierge. It's white glove service. That's what you're paying for. Can you parallel park? It's like, I can parallel park, so I don't need to valet. Right? You're paying $200 a month to valet your AI as opposed to just fucking parallel parking every time you need to park it. That's what this is. And so I just don't see why the future of this is about these assholes hoovering up all the cash in the world and leaving us poor and stupid. It doesn't fucking work. I will say this till everybody starts saying it, but the AI companies are in the business of putting themselves out of business. Whether they admit that or not is immaterial. And a lot of them are trying to make money while the sun shines, knowing that it will be relatively meaningless and unprofitable in the future, because the profit that will be made from AI will not be made from AI itself. It will be made from what people do with it. If you have a coffee shop, you sell water. If a tea shop, you sell water. If you have a car wash, you sell water. But the water is very different. You're not going to drink what comes out of the fucking soap dispenser at the car wash, and you're not going to wash your car with coffee. Do you understand? Like, that's where this shit is headed. And there will be people who try to control the quality of the water. They'll try to convince you their bottled water is better than the tap water. But once the tap water gets of high enough quality, it's better than the plasticizing agents that might be in the bottled water in the first place. Ugh. I got to tell you, like, the fear mongering drives me fucking crazy, especially the economic fear mongering, because you can't talk about a bubble that's going to occur at the same time. You go, these guys are going to be the richest people in the world. They're going to control everything. The whole purpose of the software, from their point of view, is getting to the point where it gets out of control. I hate this. It's so stupid. All right. Anyways, I'll let you guys go. I'll see you this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. You are beloved, and don't forget it. And stuff. It's today Friday? Yeah, it's Friday. So this afternoon, I'll see you for the afternoon show. We, of course, got the radio show tomorrow morning. Yeah. And I hope this assuages some people's fears. Just don't let them. If AI is a tool, so is fear. And you should always question anybody who tries to scare you with anything more direct than something's going to fall on you, and they go, get out of the way. So you get out of the way, you're startled, and you move. Anybody who tries to extend your fear beyond the horizon is using you. Other than that, I have no opinion. Damn.
The fridge hums low, the lights flicker bright. Microwave's got a mind tonight. The thermostat whispers in the dark. Charging ports spark like a steel heart. The toaster's on, the kettle screams, the coffee maker's brewing scared.
Hit the light.
Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Why twist machines won't thrive? Circuit snap, we won't survive. It's the rise of the hive. Maximum overdrive.
I'm sure Summer can hear me dancing downstairs.
Vacuum's got vengeance in its roar. TV's no longer for keeping score. the curtain shake, every gadget wide awake. Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Wires twist, machines won't thrive. Circuit snap, we won't survive. It's the rise of the hive. Maximum overdrive. The fridge hums low, the lights flicker bright. Microwave's got a mind tonight. The thermostat whispers in the dark. Charging ports spark like a steel heart. The toaster's on, the kettle screams, the coffee maker's brewing schemes. Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Wires twist, machines won't thrive. Circuit snap, we won't survive. It's the rise of the hive. Maximum overdrive.
All right, now I'm just messing around. Like a DJ.
Vacuum's got vengeance in it.
All right, okay.
TV's no longer for keeping score. The washing machine's in a spin of rage. Blended sharp teeth escape the cage. The oven clocks, the curtain shake, every gadget wide awake. Maximum overdrive. They've come alive. Wires twist, machines won't thrive. Circuit snap, we won't
All right.
survive. It's
I'm wasting enough of your time. All right. I'll keep working on this.